perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and just jump right in again to try to be respectful of your time. So for those of us, or for those of you who maybe don't know us, we'll just introduce ourselves really quickly. So my name is Rachel Rowe, and I am one of the advisors here in the college. So I do recognize many of your names. And then I'm joined by Brad.
Yes, I'm Brad Coates. I'm also an advisor in the College of Ed as well as an instructor. And I know some of you have been in my class or are in my class right now too.
Super. Okay, so because we, again, are such a big group, I can't see everyone on one screen. So I'm gonna just ask kind of you to shout out, kind of unmute and shout out if this applies to you. So typically we like to start with the professional year application if we have anybody applying to professional year. So if you could make some noise if you are here applying to professional year.
I'm applying to
Yep.
professional.
I'm here too.
Super. Okay. Yes, that's a yay. Okay. And then last question, do we have any, I know at least a couple of you are, so I'm not even going to ask that. Do we have anyone who is a secondary ed, I do teach major? So like secondary math, secondary science? No. Okay. Secondary French, yeah. So it's really, I do teach just has a slightly different application. So all other secondary, great, you're in the right place. Okay, perfect. So we are going to go ahead and jump right into the professional year application first. So that way our friends who are applying to professional year don't have to stick around for the teacher ed piece that they have already been through. So for everyone applying to teacher ed, you can kind of file this information away for later. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, and maybe I can also get this. Okay. Great. So the professional year application, it is located in the exact same template where you filled out your teacher ed application. So you don't have to request a new code. You just kind of jump right back into that same application form and then scroll down past on the left, past all of the teacher ed things that you've already done until you see the professional year application here. So again, most of the sections are pretty self-explanatory. This application form is really similar to the one you filled out for teacher ed, just kind of asking you about your program, about also if you have any restrictions about where you can be placed, like if you attended any school, if you have kids or family members at any school, we need to know that. So you'll submit that. The reapplying section, kind of same thing. You only need to fill this piece out or upload anything here if you previously applied for professional year and are reapplying. This next piece, so we do ask you to attach your current resume. For the resume here, don't worry if your resume isn't kind of a perfect finished product quite yet. We know that you are just getting ready to enter your professional year, and so you are going to obviously have a lot more to add on there as you go through all of your student teaching experiences. We really just want, kind of based on where you are now, we want you to upload that resume here. So really this is a starting point. You'll continue to work on your resume over the next year plus. So again, what you kind of your professional resume, what you have now, knowing that you'll continue to build on it. Alrighty, so everyone's favorite part of the professional year application, the Praxis tests. Let me start by saying, for our secondary friends, you all don't actually need your Praxis tests until you're going into your very last semester. So until you're going into what is probably called block 3 for you. So you're filling this out prior to starting block 3. So most of you won't have your Praxis tests to attach yet, and that's okay. For everyone else, so for elementary, our dual, special ed, early childhood, for everyone who is really housed in the College of Arts and, the College of Education here, we do require that all of your Praxis tests be completed in order to be admitted to the professional year. So ideally by February 4th, by the application deadline, ideally, you've taken all your tests and you've received all of your passing score sheets. So what you'll do is you will just click the attachment button up here and attach all of those PDFs showing your passing scores. If you have taken all of your tests but are still waiting on some of your official score sheets, attach what you do have, and then for the ones that you haven't gotten those passing scores back yet, attach the receipt showing when you took the test. Same thing applies for if you haven't actually taken all of your tests yet. Attach the materials showing when you're scheduled to take them. So really kind of the general takeaway is if you don't have all of your passing score sheets yet, the more information you can provide us here about kind of where you are in the process, when we should be expecting your passing tests, the better. Because you can't be admitted to professional year until these are done. So if by the time the deadline rolls around and these are processed, if we're still waiting on some tests for you, your application will initially be denied for missing tests. But then all you'll need to do in order to be admitted to the professional year is to send in those passing score sheets as soon as you get them. So if your application is denied only for missing Praxis tests, you do not need to appeal. You just need to send in your score sheets once you have them. And then really the last piece here is for professional year is the getting your fingerprints done for your background check. So what you'll do here is you'll come to our office here on the 7th floor of the education building to pick up a background check packet. We have, I think we actually have some outside the front door, but now that the semester is underway, we have folks in the office from 8:30 to 5 every day. So you can just come to the office to pick up your background check packet. All the information is in that packet. So you will, again, follow the directions. You will take your fingerprint card to the specific police station where you need to go for your fingerprints. You'll get your fingerprints done there, and then you'll turn all the materials back into our office here on the 7th floor. Again, everything's in there. I think there's no application fee for professional year. The only fee that's associated with it is the background check fee. So this is a $28.25 fee that is a check or money order, but this time it's made out to the Idaho State Department of Education. So just be sure when you do bring all your materials back here to the 7th floor to turn it in, that you have that check or money order ready to go as well. On Taskstream, all we are asking you to include here, because obviously you're gonna turn your background check in person. We just ask you to write in the date that you actually brought everything to our office and turned it in. Just because, especially if we weren't here and you put your materials in the drop box on the front of the door, there's a lot of individual paperwork. So if for some reason something was missing, that way we at least know when you turned everything in. Okay, so that is professional year. Do we have any professional year questions at this point?
I just have a question about what the first form. It's the diverse field experience about it's like all the LLC 340 questions and stuff. I just don't really know what it means, and like if I haven't done any of that, do I need to like just say NA or something.
Are you a secondary ed major?
I am, yeah.
Yes. Yep. So it looks like this is not, there's no star by this, so I don't think you have to fill anything out for it.
Okay.
So yeah, you should be able just to leave that blank. Those are, those are, oh, I guess actually you could just check this here.
Okay.
If you've done anything like that.
So if I'm gonna, because I'm taking Ed 301 this semester, so I'll like start going to a school, does that count as the field work?
Yes. So
Okay.
you can just check that and say, I'm starting EdCifs 301 this semester, so we'll be in the field for that course. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually have a question as well. I already picked up the fingerprinting packet and I had a chance to look through it. And I just have a question of whether or not we fill out the information before we go to get fingerprinted, or if we fill it out while we're there.
The information about like your information on the front of the card.
Yeah, like right here, like this, like our name and social security number and stuff.
Yeah, I think you can fill that out before you actually go in to get it done. Just because it could be like once the fingerprints are on there, it could be a little more awkward just to write around it that way.
Okay. And then also for the background investigation check form, on the back page of that, there's all of this information and it doesn't specify whether or not I'm filling it out or the fingerprinter is filling this information out.
Okay. I don't have a packet on me right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't answer that in detail now. Email Shelly Jund in our office.
Okay.
Her information is on the Teacher Ed Applications website, and she processes all of the background check forms. So any really specific questions like that, that's a great question. Shelly Jund is the best point of contact.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. All right, then I am going to go ahead and move right on. I'm sorry, I cannot see anyone on the screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and move back to the Teacher Ed application. And if any of our professional year friends have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Brad or I directly as well. Okay, so let me just scroll back up and kind of start back at the beginning here. So for the Teacher Ed application, the starting point is on our College of Ed Teacher Ed website, all under this applications page here. So if you have not yet been to this page to start the process, this is where you're going to go. The first step is to fill out a survey by either clicking the elementary ed or secondary ed button here. When we say elementary ed, this particular survey is intended for elementary ed, TESOL, special ed, early childhood, any of the programs that are housed here in the College of Education. And the secondary ed survey refers to, yes, any of our secondary ed, but also our K through 12 programs like kinesiology, PE, music, art. All of you folks will fill out the secondary ed survey. So what happens here is we just ask you some kind of brief questions. Have you taken this class? Have you taken that class? To try to get a sense of making sure you are truly ready to apply to the program. If you aren't totally sure about something on the survey, answer it to the best of your ability and submit it. Don't worry about this being perfectly 100% correct, because we are going to check all of this information when we process your application. So you will submit the survey, and then pretty soon, within a day or so after you do that, you will get an email directly from me that has the directions on how to create your Taskstream account, which is what we were just looking at, where the application lives. And once you create your account, how to add the actual application form to that account. So once you have those directions and you have created your account, you have added the application, then you will go right into kind of everything here on the left under the Admission to Teacher Education header. So all of these pieces here, down until the application fee, this is what needs to be done on Taskstream by that February 4th application deadline. So the application to teacher ed section here, this is mostly just asking for your information, your program, again, your major. The piece that we want to touch on briefly here is this adjudication piece. So what this is saying is basically if you have ever been found responsible for for a DUI or a minor in possession or something like that, you do need to disclose it. And if you have not previously been cleared by the College of Education Professional Standards and Appeals Committee, you will need to go through the adjudication appeal process. All of that information is found on our website. And also once you, if you do submit your application and you've checked yes, you have been found responsible for some violation, then we'll also work with you to get you the process that you need to go through for this. This also applies to the Boise State Code of Conduct. If you had been found responsible for violating the Boise State Code of Conduct in the past, you probably have already been cleared by by the university. What would that be? The hearing board of the university. That's separate from the Professional Standards and Appeals Committee. So if you have not previously been cleared by College of Ed Professional Standards and Appeals Committee, you will need to do that as well. If you had a violation or you had an incident come up and you have already gone through the process of appealing to the Professional Standards and Appeals Committee, so maybe you had to do that for your LLC 201 or your LLC 340 or an early fieldwork course, you don't have to do it again. You would just say, yes, I've already been cleared and I was cleared May 2020. So if you have any questions about about this, generally we say err on the side of disclosing. If it ends up being something that you don't need to go through the process, we'll let you know, but feel free also to reach out to us directly with any questions about this. So you can see here that I saved my draft for this, and I got this little pop-up reminding me that I'm going to need to submit my work. If you remember one thing from this workshop, let it be that you actually have to submit each section of the application as you complete it. There's no submit all button at the end. So the way to keep track of what you have already submitted and what is still kind of in progress is this tab here, the scores and results tab. So if you go into that, that will show you kind of where you are in the process. So I have not started my letter of application, but my application form is in progress. By February 4th, we want to have a nice list of green check marks with everything saying submitted. Don't worry about the section that potentially doesn't apply to you. So you only need to submit something for the reapplying section if you are in fact reapplying. Otherwise, it's okay for this to be blank. But if by the 4th, by the deadline, any of the required sections are blank, your application isn't going to come up when we run the report. So really, really important that you make sure you get everything submitted on here. Okay, so the next piece here, reapplying. Again, you only need to include anything on here if you previously applied in the past and you were denied and now you're reapplying. If you will be submitting this section, basically we just want to know what's changed. So you previously applied last semester, your GPA was too low, your GPA is higher now, so you're reapplying. It can be really brief, just letting us know what's different. Okay, so then the letter of application, this is the first of the two kind of really written pieces of the application. Your letter of application will also be read by your interview team as you get ready to go into the interview piece a little bit later in the process. So you can think of this letter of application kind of as a cover letter that you would write for a job application. So it should be about a page. It's okay if it's slightly over a page, but this is not an essay. This should not be 2 pages. This is really the kind of the introduction that your interview team is going to get to you, who you are, what motivates you, kind of why you're here. So these 3 prompts are what we ask you to address in the letter of application. If you want to have kind of a paragraph touching on each one, that's great. Be sure that this is a professional letter. So you're addressing it to the Teacher Ed Program Admissions Committee. You're making sure that you're using professional language, but you're finding that balance of really kind of a respectful professional tone, but the content of this letter is you. So again, this is not something you would turn in for a class. We don't want you to cite anything. We don't expect this to be written like an essay because we want your voice to come through in this letter. We really want to get to know you, why you're here, what motivates you, so that your interview team, when they read this letter, they can get a sense of, oh, this experience you had was really important in shaping your decision to become a teacher, or oh, you're interested in going on to do this down the road. That's really interesting. I'd love to hear more about it in your interview. So again, make sure that you're authentic and you really use your personal, genuine voice. This isn't a place where you should be thinking about, oh, well, what do they want to hear, or what sort of buzzwords are they looking for in this application. This is really this is why I'm here. I had this experience, or I had this teacher, or my own experiences growing up, whatever it is. We really want to hear your story come through here. So you'll write the letter in a Word doc, something like that, and just attach it here. The next piece, the Teacher Ed GPA section. So you can see on the left-hand side, there's a green exclamation point here. That just means that there's nothing you have to submit on Taskstream for this piece. This is just a reminder that there is a GPA requirement to be admitted to the program. That's something that our office will check when we process applications. So again, nothing you need to do. It's just kind of a reminder. Then the case study response. So this is the second written piece that your interview team will review prior to your interview. So what we ask you to do here is we provide you with a choice of 6 different case studies or 6 different scenarios that we ask you to read through and then respond to. You can see here that depending on what your specific major or program is, you might need to choose a particular case study, but everyone else has a choice of any of the 6. So again, we ask you to read through it. There are some prompts, some questions, and then to submit a response of roughly 500 words, 1 to 2 pages. So the goal here is for us to really to start to hear how you would think through kind of a challenging situation that you might run into as a new teacher. Maybe it's parents wanting feedback on a subject, or a teacher and another teacher having a disagreement about how to handle a particular student. There's obviously 6 choices, so it could be different scenarios, but we want to know, or we want to hear your voice again, that based on where you are now in the program and how you're starting to really shape your identity as an educator, how you would respond to this. So as you're starting to kind of write out your response here, just know that that we want to hear where you are, where you're coming from now. So we do not expect that you have this sort of perfect, well thought out, articulated, like life-changing answer to the scenario. These are difficult scenarios, and there's a lot of pieces to consider. And we understand where you are, kind of just applying to the program here. So our whole program over the course of the next couple of years, it's all based on a developmental model. So really your responses here are kind of like your starting point. So if we asked you to respond to these same case studies a year from now, a year and a half from now, your responses would be different. And that's what we're looking for. So the one other thing on here is I'll just show you that the interview team will evaluate your response, and they'll do so using the rubric attached here. So you're welcome to view the rubric prior to writing your response. But don't get too hung up on that, because again, this is a starting point. And so even if your score on your case study isn't perfect, that's okay. Because again, we're hoping that from here on out, sort of it would only go up. So, so the last thing I'll say about this is you can see here that instead of an attachment button, Taskstream just gives you a text and image box here, or a way to submit. So what I recommend doing is writing your response in a separate Word doc and then copying and pasting it into the text box here, rather than trying to actually write everything out as you're thinking through it in the text box. Alrighty, so then the last two things that need to be submitted on Taskstream for the teacher ed application are these two surveys. So these are pretty quick. With the surveys, your kind of all that really matters for having a complete teacher ed application is that you complete them. So please be totally honest with your answers to the surveys. What you answer, kind of what you select for a survey question, has no bearing on your admission to the program. So if you're really happy with something, great, indicate that on the survey. If you think there's room for improvement with something else, great, indicate that on the survey. So again, please be honest, and just make sure that you get those submitted by the deadline. All right, last piece of the teacher ed application is the application fee. So there is a $50 application fee that does need to be paid check or money order, and that needs to be turned into our office on the 7th floor of the education building. If we aren't here for any reason, there is a drop box outside the front door, so you're welcome to put a check or money order in there. Just please make sure that your name and your student ID number is on that check or money order, so that we know kind of it goes with your application. Okay, I am going to pause there. Were there any kind of general questions about anything that I went over here?
Yes, I was wondering about way back at the beginning when you were talking about the survey. For example, we had the choice between the secondary education survey and the elementary ed survey. What would we do if we do not currently have a Boise State student ID? How would we complete the survey? Because the first question is, what is your student ID?
Why do you not have a Boise State ID?
I am looking to apply to this master's program, but I have not attended Boise State.
Okay, if you can send me an email outside of this, I'll follow up with you directly about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question for you as well. Mine was more relating to like the MIP stuff. How far does that go back? Because I did receive an MIP and I want to say 2005. I don't know how many years if that goes off.
That is a great question. Brad, do you have a sense of that?
I don't know.
No, what I would do honestly is go ahead and click yes, and then if it's past the, for lack of a better term, like statute of limitations, then you won't have to go through the whole process. But go ahead and click yes, just in case that comes up on the repository. That's something that, again, better safe than sorry at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Rachel, she can, or Tabitha, you can also reach out to Lori Pierce French and ask her if that is in fact something that you need to disclose.
You said her name was Lori?
Yeah, and I believe, at least on our website, it has her information, but she can be reached at lfrench@boisestate.edu.
French. And is that Lori Lori or LAU?
LORI.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks, Shelley. I'm glad you're here. I can't see anyone, so I didn't know you were here. Okay, so I actually am going to turn it over to Shelley now to walk us through. So what happens February 4th? You have submitted everything on here. Kind of what happens next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shelley, and I'm in the office for teacher education on the 7th floor, and I, with Brad and Rachel, will be processing your applications. And I'll be brief. I will start out by saying that if you are a secondary ed major, and I don't know how many of there are of you on this call, your process will look a little different. You will hear directly from your respective program coordinator to make, they'll make arrangements with you to meet and have an interview, and that may look different. And I just wanted to preface that, or preface my blurb by saying that. That being said, if you are elementary or elementary dual degrees, you will be hearing from me directly to either you will get a denial letter from me with instructions for the appeals process, or you will get an invitation to interview. And the hope is to have those letters to you no later than Friday, February 18th. I will say that interviews will be starting the following week. I believe it's Wednesday, the 23rd, and they will go through, I believe it's March 16th. Yes, that is correct. They'll go through March 16th. So what you'll receive is an email, and it'll let you know that you're moving on to the next part of the process, which is the interview, and you need to schedule an interview. There will be a link within that email that will take you to Google Calendar appointment slots. And please take this away, just select one appointment slot. There are usually as many times available as there are candidates that need to interview. So if you sign up from 2, I'm probably going to cancel one. I'll let you know that I'm canceling it, but you may not get a choice in which one that is at that point. So sign up for one slot only. Also do it right away when you receive that email from me. Like I said, be looking for that leading up to February 18th. And then finally, make sure that whatever device that you are scheduling your appointment slot is set to Mountain Standard Time. Because if it's set in a different time zone, then you are not signing up for the time that you think you are. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. I'm also on the website under teacher education. Any questions?
Super.
I'll take that as an Sure, you're welcome.
All right, Brad.
All right, hi all. So basically, everything that's been kind of talked to up to this point, what Rachel went through is everything that needs to be done by February 4th, by the deadline. And then Shelley was starting to talk about kind of what's going to happen after that deadline and after we process those applications. So I'm going to be here just to kind of talk about the interview and the interview process. One thing to note is that interviews, so how interviews are conducted may look different in other secondary ed programs. So it's kind of based off of what the program coordinator will contact you with regards to what kind of the steps are. So what I'm really going to be going through for the most part is towards the process within elementary ed, special ed, and early childhood. Now, some secondary ed programs may follow this same process as well. And so within this particular process, what you will be asked to do as part of the interview is you're going to prepare a speech. And you see on the screen here the 4 prompts for that speech. And I do want to kind of clarify between a speech. Sometimes I may say presentation, and that doesn't mean that you're coming in with visuals and whatnot. This is really just a speech to talk about through each of these prompts. And you're going to have up to 8 minutes to deliver this speech. And it doesn't have to be 8 minutes long. It could be shorter than that. But as long as you are really thoroughly addressing each of these areas. So you need to talk about why do you want to teach, goals of a good educator, strengths, areas of growth, professional goals as part of that. And can you go back to Taskstream real quick, Rachel, and then we'll come back to this. One thing to note is you'll see on here under interview outline. So when you write up your speech, your up to 8 minute speech, and you have those 4 different prompts, you are going to be required to post an interview outline on Taskstream at least 24 hours prior to your scheduled interview. So that means if you are scheduled to interview on Wednesday at 9 a.m., then this outline needs to be posted on Taskstream by Tuesday at 9 a.m. And so that gives enough time for your interview team to review all of your materials, including this outline. An important piece with regards to this interview outline, it is called an outline. It needs to be an outline format. So what we do not want you to write verbatim your entire up to 8 minute speech. As an interviewer, that can become very confusing because you're saying these words and I'm reading them. So the outline, the purpose of the outline, so think of it as, it could be, you could look up on Google any sorts of format, but Roman numeral 1, why do you want to teach? And then bullet point, Mrs. Smith, 2nd grade teacher. And that's all you would need there. So think of this outline as something that's going to help the interview team follow along during your speech. So as you start talking about, I would go, oh, all right, they're starting to talk about Mrs. Smith, their 2nd grade teacher, and I could write notes. So it's just something that helps us as interviewers follow along through your speech. So do not write your entire speech out. That's not what you're submitting here. It is an outline format. So that's really important to do. If you submit something that's written completely out, your interview team lead is going to respond back and ask you to submit an outline. So be sure you do it in an outline format. Yeah, can we go back to the website too? So I just wanted to show that you will need to, so there is something else you'll post after the deadline. That needs to be 24 hours prior to your actual interview. So as part of the interview process, so you give your speech, and you're addressing each of these prompts, and then it really just is opened up to a discussion. So most of the interview teams, it's usually a three-person panel. It could consist of a lot of different people. Maybe it's faculty members, it's in-service teachers, principals from the district, whatnot. It's usually a combination of a group of people. And so then after you're done with your speech, then it's really just opened up for questions. And so the interview team is really there to, and one thing to mention too is those questions can come from your presentation, your speech, but they can also come from what you wrote in your letter of application, from your case study response, from various things that we're going to be looking over as part of this process. And one thing too so the questions normally, the discussion part, I would say usually lasts maybe 10 to 15 minutes. or so. So you can think of the entire interview as probably usually around 20 minutes in total time. And really the purpose of the discussion is really to just kind of dive deeper into who you are, why you're passionate about teaching, what your beliefs are about teaching and learning, what you believe the purpose of education is, and whatnot. Because really what we are evaluating, and this is going to be something that will go across programs too. So some secondary ed programs may approach the interview itself in a different way. But we will be evaluating dispositions as part of this process. And so we've, in addition to presentation skills and whatnot, but at the core will be these 4 different main areas of disposition. So we have dispositions of character, care, pedagogical stance, and professional commitment. And so when we're looking at the disposition of character, we're looking at, okay, so your self-awareness. So your ability to be able to identify strengths and areas of growth, looking at balance. So having that sense of self-care, having that work-life balance, your sense of humility. So recognizing that you're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, how you react in those circumstances. And so that's a lot about self. With disposition of character. With disposition of care, we're kind of looking at others. So how receptive are you to others, being open-minded to various perspectives and ideas, your ability to connect with others, inclusivity, so considering meeting the needs of all learners, of all your students, having that equitable education. Then the third is your pedagogical stance. So how well you're able to articulate your beliefs about teaching and learning, who you are as an educator, who you want to become as an educator, your ability to recognize the importance of being flexible and adaptable. So kind of really having that capacity for change. So as things change, you're able to adapt within that and see how your identity as an educator will continue to evolve as you go throughout your career. And then the final is professional commitment. So with this, being professional, and also too thinking about yourself as an advocate and going beyond just being an advocate for students, which is very important, but also being an advocate for the profession and school, community, district at large. And then as well as your dedication to the profession too. So those are going to be the kind of the key dispositions that we will be evaluating and thinking about. A lot of the questions will be geared towards getting more information regarding that. Now, with regards to admittance status, so what will happen is, so if you're everything goes well with the review of the application, you're able to interview, you schedule your interview, you go through the interview process. What will happen is a letter will be posted on Taskstream, usually 2 to 3 weeks after your interview. That could vary based off of how many interviews we have, interview team. But usually within 2 weeks, a letter will be posted. You will receive an automated email from Taskstream to let you know that letter has been posted. It will be important for you to go and read that letter, because that letter is going to tell you what your admittance status is and moving forward as well. And so with the various admittance status, so we have denied. So if you're denied based off of the interview, or if for any other reason, or full admittance, those are kind of the two at each end. Full admittance will be, you would only be fully admitted if so you're successful in the interview, you've already completed all of the coursework, so you don't have anything in progress, and your GPA as well. So in those cases, you would be potentially fully admitted. And then we have two different conditional admittance to the program. So one is a conditional admittance for academic reasons. So maybe, and I'm going to guess probably a lot of you, especially in elementary, special ed, early childhood, have courses in progress right now. So you've completed everything, but maybe you have 2 or 3 classes that are required for you to be accepted, but you haven't finished yet. And so if successful in the interview, you could be conditionally accepted for academic reasons. And in that case, what we do as a group is we just check at the end of the semester that you successfully completed the course and passed the course. And then at that point, if that was the only condition, then you're fully admitted. If you don't pass the course, then you would receive a denial from Shelley. The other conditional, and it could be kind of both of these, is conditional for disposition reasons. And so part of as Rachel had said before, you know, our program is really built on a developmental model. So the expectation isn't that you're just an absolutely amazing educator right now, because there's a reason why you're going through the program. And so during the interview, as I mentioned earlier, with our evaluation of these various dispositions, the interview team may identify something of an area of growth that they feel as though it would benefit you to work one-on-one with a faculty advocate. And so in that process there, so maybe it's being able to more clearly articulate your pedagogical stance, or showing a greater sense of humility, or whatever it may be. In that case, you're moving on, you're able to register for classes and move forward, but you will be assigned a faculty advocate and work with them on a development plan to work on those specific areas. And then the only additional step with that is that you would re-interview in that case. And again, you're still moving forward. So those are the different admittance status. So it would be denial, it could be full admittance, conditional admittance based off of academic, or conditional admittance for disposition. So you could be conditionally admitted for both pending coursework and dispositional reasons as well. So it could span over both of those. Again, with the academic, it's just you successfully completing the course, or if it's your GPA is like right on the fringe, that you're at the 3.0 at the end of the semester. And so one thing I'll say is that, you know, part of this within the interview and the interview process itself, I know it can be a really stressful, anxious time. It's something that's important to you, but recognize too that the people that panel there, that will likely be Zoom interviews, again, this semester is going to be my guess, is that we are there to support you. You know, so we're there evaluating you, but we're not there to judge you. We're there to give you some constructive feedback and things to work on, and trying to give you the resources and tools to be able to continue to develop as an educator. And so with that said, the things that really the advice I would give going into the interview, a few things. So one is to be professional. And so part of that means be on time for your interview. So know that when Shelley was talking about sending you a Google Calendar to schedule an interview time, what she does before that is she contacts all the interview teams, and we block off times to interview throughout. And so, and those blocks of times, we have interviews back to back to back. So if you're not there on time, you may not be able to interview. So important to be on time. Back to Shelley's point about making sure you're on Mountain Standard Time on your Google Calendar too. Also too, part of being professional, even though it is on Zoom, it may very well be on Zoom, professional attire as well. So you can kind of think about it as you're going to Taft Elementary to interview with the principal. And that too, if on Zoom as well, is that making sure that your environment and your background is professional. So no distractions going on. You're not just like laying down in your bed and doing this. So be sure that it's a professional setting, as well as professional communication too. So you very well may know some of the people on your interview team. Recognize that this is a professional setting, and that is how we as interviewers too will be handling that situation as well. It's also important to be prepared. And so what that would mean, practice. Practice your speech. Don't just write it up at the last minute, 24 hours before I have to get my interview outline on and do it. Practice with that. And also to recognize that sometimes that could happen is, oh, well, I know how I'd answer that question, or, oh yeah, I got that, I know that. Don't do that. Really reflect and go think more deeply about some of your beliefs about teaching and learning, because we are going to be looking for in-depth responses. So not just kind of surface level, we're going to ask you to elaborate. So be prepared to be able to do that and speak more deeply towards those beliefs. Another thing too that sometimes it comes up as well in preparation is I'll be asked, well, is it okay to have note cards? And I would say, yes, absolutely, have note cards. But don't rely on it. Don't be just reading from the note cards during it. So you are going to, even on Zoom, you want to engage the interview team. And so, but it's great to have, because again, this is going to be a stressful situation that, you're talking along and go, oh, what was I going to say next? You can glance down at a note card. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to. So I would definitely recommend, just don't read off of. Still engage with the interview team. And then the last thing that I'll say, and Rachel even said it too, and some of the things that you would write, like letter VAP, letter and your case study response, is it's really important for you to be genuine. And so with your responses, don't try to say things that you think the interview team wants to hear. Or don't go off on all these various buzzwords without being able to really elaborate on what that means to you and how you're connecting to those things as well. And really with being genuine, one is that sometimes if you're trying to say what you think they want to hear, you can easily contradict yourself as you're talking along. And then as well is that the more genuine you are in your responses, then the more quality of constructive feedback we can give you and to help you continue to develop and grow. If you don't show that, then we won't see it, and then we may not see it till later down the line when it's too late. So please be genuine in your responses. Ask questions and whatnot. But yeah, that's in essence really the interview process. So again, you'll put together an 8-minute speech. You'll deliver that to the interview panel. Then it becomes open for discussion and questions. And then you'll receive it within a couple of weeks a letter with the admittance status and that information. Any questions about that? Okay, excellent.
Okay, beautiful. Alrighty, well, in that case, we managed to finish a couple of minutes ahead of time. So with that in mind, does anyone have anything that they wanted to ask before we sign off here?
How many times can you apply to the program? Like if for some reason something happened, the interview didn't go well, how many times can you apply? And is that just like once a year? I mean, I'm not expecting that to happen, but just curious.
Yeah, so depending on your program, it would be kind of, we have application cycles every semester. Some of the secondary ed programs, they only accept applications to teacher education once a year, but other programs do process applications both in the fall and the spring. So there's there's not really any limit. So, if you applied and your GPA was low and you applied again and it was still low and it was still low, you could keep applying. We would probably just hope we would do a better job advising you of when you should actually plan to apply.
Thank you.
I had a quick question about transfer credits. If we are waiting for a credit to transfer over onto our transcript for Boise State, and we still don't see that class, do we just go forth anyways? I just know in terms of GPA, it might not be the most accurate, so I'm not sure.
That's a wonderful question, and absolutely still go forward with the process. What would be great is so for the most part, it's the three of us, Shelley, Brad, and myself, processing the applications. So if you could reach out to one of us and just kind of remind us about maybe what we're waiting for with your transfer credit, as long as we know that going into the application process, then we can kind of move forward with the assumption that we have this credit coming in. We just can't see it yet. So please just make sure that you remind one of us. Okay. All right, well then I am going to stop recording here and end this for everybody. If any questions do come up, again, please feel free to reach out to any of us. And if your friends are also applying and weren't able to attend today, we will be posting this on the Teacher Ed Applications website, so they are welcome to watch it, or if you wanted to revisit it for any reason as well. All righty, thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks all.